Today's episode is with Matt Moody, who is doing a local media brand, or what he calls it, like a community dashboard in small town Kansas, making $500,000 a year, and it's automated. This guy is an absolute rock star in our space, and I've known him for quite a while, and I've always been so impressed with him. I try to steal his time whenever I can, and thankfully he came on now, and I think you're going to absolutely love this one. Between all of the unique things he's doing, like point system to give away gift cards, he does crime and obituaries in a way most people don't. He uses a photographer system to gain subscribers. I mean, the list goes on. This guy is doing things so different for most people. And there's a reason he works less than most of us and makes many times more. So I know this is going to be one of the best episodes that I've had. So hopefully you check out the whole thing. You're going to love it. Reply on YouTube or even email me, let me know, or tell Matt how awesome he is. I bet a bunch of you are going to do that. So hopefully you enjoy this one. Quick takeaways: make sure you subscribe to the free newsletter, localmediahq.com. Jump in the free Discord. Again, want to make it easy to ask me questions, share, get feedback, and make sure you jump on the wait list for Local Newsletter OS. Again, this should be coming in January. Get on the wait list now. You'll get a discount, and you'll be one of my favorite people. So you'll be able to chat with me on ideas that you have to make it better, because I'm going to want to hear them. So yeah, that's it. Enjoy this episode. Hey everyone, today I am here with Matt Moody. He runs Salina 311, and I'm absolutely stoked to have him. Somebody I wanted to have on for a long time. Him and I have talked many, many times, but not publicly. So here he is, and I think you are absolutely going to love this one. Matt is doing really impressive things that no one else is doing. So I can't stress enough. You're going to want to listen to this one all the way through. So anyway, Matt, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's kind of fun to talk in a more public setting than we usually do.
Exactly. Cool. Well, so let's just get into it. So tell me first, so everybody understands, about the dungeon that you're in, and what kind of weird stuff you do in there. So go ahead and let everybody know.
Right? Yeah, no, I also own a batting cage, and I'm the high school baseball coach in the small town Kansas. And so that's where I happen to be today.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, why don't we tell everybody, the super basic. So, where you are, where your newsletter is, right? Which again is unique because of the small town aspect. But give everybody the high level background of it.
Yeah, I guess high level. So I founded with a partner Salina 311 back in 2021. Wasn't really like in the local newsletter that wasn't the logic at all. My background's in software development and machine learning. We never really called it AI. That name is sexier than machine learning, but that's my background. And so in 21, I was just trying to automate a local newsletter. I had founded a local news network way back in 2011 and sold it. And so around 21, I was in AI and I had a SaaS startup, and I decided, hey, I should try to see if I can automate some of this stuff that I used to like take a lot of work back in the day. And then we did that. It grew like crazy. And then it was a newsletter, but we weren't really focusing on it being a newsletter, just like local news. And then slowly but surely, we built out sort of what I'd like to call a community intelligence platform. And so now it's a SaaS. It's also where we're moving horizontally to other locations. But Salina 311, this year we'll do north of $500,000 in revenue. We've got 30,000 members in a community of, or more than 30,000, in a community of 60,000. So we've got half the population. And it's kind of, we continue to grow, even though I don't know how. There's not that many adults left to sure there. But yeah, that's kind of, we've done that over the time. We're also the paper of record, so we do a print version as well. And that's a whole nother story, whole nother adventure, but we have that as a component. And all of those continue to grow, and that's kind of the model that we now use and how we're replicating that in other communities.
Yeah. So impressive. I think let's just kind of hit it. To me, when I first met you and talked to you, and I was just like blown away because you're doing things so different than everybody else. Right. and I remember being kind of confused by how you were doing what you were doing, where so many of us are talking about, the newsletter first, right? By the way, I did change my branding for this reason. Partly you're somewhat responsible for that. Is thinking bigger than a newsletter. And to your point, what you just said earlier, you weren't even thinking newsletter at the beginning. You were thinking like what I heard when we first met, and even now, is like you were building a local media company where you are just providing information about the community in all respects in different ways. A newsletter was just like, that was just a piece of it, but you also have the website and you were posting things to Facebook. And I don't know, maybe kind of talk about what I remember we talked about before. And I know you've shifted a little bit, but how you grew this thing, what strategies you were taking, and how it wasn't newsletter first, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think, a lot of this, I always have to give credit to Balaji Srinivasan, because he threw out a tweet about communities and building a sort of community dashboard. And so I took a little bit of that concept and then applied it to what we were doing in Salina. And the idea being, like, I never really refer to it as like media, just because that's kind of like you kind of get pigeonholed a little bit like newsletter, you kind of get pigeonholed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, we're trying to do all kinds of other things. Like we have the community analytics where it's just the data. I don't think most people don't trust the media, which is one of the reasons why I never wanted to like coin. I never wanted us to like to be labeled as such. And I think when you start getting into the data, then you can be more objective. It isn't like, somebody that's just like propaganda, like what most media is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to sort of like put like numbers to everything first. And so we keep track of all of the data. And then the data can also, you can present it in chart form, but you can also present it in story or narrative form, which most people engage with that more than they do. But I think it's a good basis for it, and it keeps it to where, it isn't our take on, if something's good or bad. We don't want to do that. We just want to say, like, this is just what it is. And so we took that as like a basis for this. And then, part of that too, like the next step that he had talked about in the tweet was like, once you get some of these numbers, then you can start creating an incentive structure to try to move the numbers in a more positive direction. So for example, like, we have a rewards program that we recently like really kind of like made it more public, but the idea is like we keep track of the number of pets that are in the animal shelter, and so you can kind of see, okay, here's how many pets in the animal shelter, and here's how many like new ones or ones that have been adopted. Well, ultimately, if your community is really healthy, you want those numbers to go down as far as like you want the adoptions to go up, but then you don't want that many pets in the animal shelter. And so now we create a reward for adopting a pet. And so you can get points that then you can redeem, and then you can exchange that for gift cards or experiences at other local venues or local businesses. And so the idea is like, okay, we have information about what's going on. We keep track of that over time. We can tell stories about it. We can then incentivize the community members that we, like our subscribers, we can incentivize them to take action to better the community. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of becomes a little bit more. That's why I'm like, I don't really, it's kind of local media, but ultimately it's a lot more than that. And, it's still a little early on the rewards and the incentive structures to see, is this really going to work the way that it could? But it looks pretty good right now. It's functioning correctly. And now we'll just kind of see, how big how big it can get. And then also we're trying to replicate that in a lot of communities so that we can kind of see, all right, if we can do this, in a couple hundred communities, then there's just a significant impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that idea is really good one. Like when you showed it to me, the rewards thing, that concept has been rolling around in my head for 6 months. But of course, number one, technologically seems, too difficult for me and probably anybody listening. And then how to figure out exactly how to place it, put it together. And of course you came and did it all. So yeah, no, that's super impressive. I'm excited to see how that goes, but I know it's going well at the beginning. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. Thank you. And the other thing that I was going to mention too is that, the other reason I never really looked at it as like a newsletter is that I feel like that's just one distribution channel.
Yeah, it's just
And
a channel.
we wanted to have a lot of different distribution channels. That way
Mhm.
we're not reliant completely on one. So we added SMS,
Okay.
which is crazy because we just kind of rolled it out and we made it to where people could sign up with their phone. And it's like all of a sudden I just went and looked and I'm like, oh wow, we have a lot of like, well, actually, I just looked at my Twilio bill and I was like, what in the world is going on here? And I'm like, oh God, we're sending a lot of SMS that I
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily even paying attention to.
Um, I mean, I'm trying to keep track in my head of all the interesting things you're doing. I literally like am gonna not bring them all up because there's so many. So I apologize in advance to the audience. He's just doing crazy stuff. So you just brought up text messages. I actually just listened to an episode with Matt Paulson, who does Market Beat, and he has been talking on Twitter and on this episode about the value of using SMS as a channel. As I was listening to that this morning, I was trying to think how we would use that, in local space. And I got you on and you're doing it. So tell me, how are you leveraging SMS?
Yeah, so it's a little different because you can't, this is my theory right now. So the way that we're doing it a little differently is like we look at the full, like we send out a daily newsletter. So the email that goes out, that's like the summary and it has all, like a snippet of every story that's kind of happening in the last 24 hours or whatever. And then SMS, you don't want to send a giant text message. And
Yeah.
so we have, like story notifications is how we're using it right now, to where if there's certain information that you want promptly, so we have a big list of things that they can just go toggle on inside the application. They can just go toggle on which ones they want to
So
get
yeah,
notified email, via SMS.
so this reminds me, I remember when you showed me this a while ago. So what you're talking about, which is a whole other interesting story, is you were doing just like most people, although it was daily, but you were doing just a newsletter and then you were able to break it up via topic, right? So it was like, if you care about local sports, there would be a local sports newsletter that is
Yep.
separate. And so you did that for what? Like I remember obituaries, local
Yep.
sports. I think you had what, like 6 or 7 or something?
Crime.
Crime.
We have all the that kind of goes into the next one. We do like all the public meetings, so committee, all the commission councils, and we automated all of those, so that those stories are just automatic. As soon as they're happening, then it gets the transcription turned into stories, and then we can send out those via text. And it kind of happened in Salina. There was a big court case between the city and a like a historic business in town. It was like a burger shop that's been there forever. And it's relatively famous. They make little sliders, and they painted a mural on the side of their building, and it wasn't up to like the code. And so they basically got like a cease and desist on continuing their mural on the building. And it became this huge whole court case, and they spent $1 gazillion and the city lost. And so when we were able to do that, like when it came out, that the city had lost this like 2 weeks ago, then like a bunch of these people that were subscribed to that, they found out instantly via text message. There's nothing else that's remotely like that. Most of them would find out from one of the the competitive media entities that's over there, and they're going to find out by like listening to the radio, or they'd have to like go to their website, or maybe they're following them on Facebook or something. And we were able to just push that out via email and SMS, and so everybody found out from us right away.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, there's so much there. I mean, the obvious downside, though, as you already mentioned on the SMS, that does seem a little scary, is the cost, right? So I don't know how that works, but I know it can cost some
it's
a decent amount.
It's not crazy. It's not crazy yet, even though we're getting an MMS. And I was like, okay, now this is going to probably get a little crazy, but we got to test it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm definitely interested to see how that one goes. I guess speaking of Market Beat, they're doing it around the whole country, right? So obviously I could see why their bill would get to be significantly larger than Salina, Kansas. Yeah. Let's talk about, because I feel like I only know a little bit, again, very intriguing, and how different you've done things. And maybe tell us what you did do, but then also maybe how things might be different now, because I know you're kind of trying to analyze, where the world is today versus 2021. But you, from what I know, you did not spend money on growth. Like, was this, I mean, you got literally half of your town. And by the way, as you said, 30,000 out of 60,000. Out of the 60, how many are under 18 and how many are over 80, right? Like, where they almost don't even qualify, right? So it's like really it's probably 45 or less that's viable.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you
Yeah,
have
and,
like
and some of
75%.
them aren't the one thing about that's interesting about that town too is like it is, oh, I mean, it's kind of like a hub for everything west of there. So there's
West.
a lot of people, a lot of like to west. There's not a whole heck of a lot
Yeah,
left
in Kansas.
west of
Yeah,
Kansas. No,
yeah.
once you're out there's not a lot left.
So you mean
And
like
so,
the little towns, the people in small towns of 500 or something will follow it because they're
because
40
they have a
minutes away.
connection. Yeah,
Yeah,
they have a
yeah.
connection to it, and that's where they do business or shop or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Okay, no, that makes sense. So, but you did not do meta ads to grow that. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, no, we did not. We the only thing that we ever really did was that we bought a Facebook page. I talked to the guy and was like, "Hey, could we buy that?" And he said, "Sure." And so I spent $1,000.
What kind of page was it? Like, what was it?
It was a police scanner page.
Police scanner in specific to Salina?
Yeah. So they automated the police scanner, and I was like, well, hey, everything kind of like for the basis of like like the data that we were doing on crime. I'm like, well, we kind of need to have some like somebody that like there's just a bunch of people that sit and listen to this thing all day long, and then they put stuff out, and I'm like, well, we can get like and then it would help like some of the stories because we'd get like the core information early, and then we could use that almost like, I don't know, 98% of the content we create is automated. And so we need as much information as we possibly can get in order to make that thorough.
Okay. So tell me how the process went of like growing per se. So you weren't using Meta. So you get a Facebook page. What did it have? 5 or 10,000 followers or something? 20. Okay. So he was doing well. Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that convert to getting so many newsletter subscribers or people who have subscriptions or what'd you do?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that we did was that we still had our page, which doesn't have that many followers because we were just sharing the links. It was automated. And it was just, we had it set up to where whenever we published, then it would just go to the page. But then to read the story, you had to subscribe. You had to provide your email in order to read. And so that was the trick. That's how we did it. And then one of the other tricks was that we hired a bunch of photographers to go to all of these events that are out there, and then the sporting events, like everything, and then publish the photo galleries. So that's the component that's not automated, is that we'll do all of those. And everybody wants to see, like, if they're in a photo, they're gonna, okay, I got to get my email to be able to see my photos. Yeah, that's not much of an ask because they just all did it, and that was kind of how we grew it over the years, and still continue. That's when we do those, that's the biggest draw.
So yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. I love these kind of, I mean, I don't know if this would qualify as a growth hack, but I mean, kind of, and it's just creative. I remember when you told me that a long time ago. I was like, oh my God, that is such a good idea. But I think, or you tell me, let's just get into, you have a paid version of your plan, right? People can pay to be a member, and you have a relatively large amount of people paying you. I mean, you're making real money from this, right?
Yeah, the largest chunk of our revenue is from individuals that have paid.
Okay, so it is okay. What do they? Is this where it's is it $20 a year or $25 a year, something like that?
Yeah, so it's $25 for the year or $20 a month.
So I mean, that is that like a price anchoring?
Yeah. And what's crazy is how many people actually just pay the $20 a month. This is nuts.
Oh, really? Okay. People just not paying attention, basically. Just like, I don't want annual, even though it's the same price. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Okay. All right, we'll ignore that. That's interesting. But so you got a lot of people paying you, call it, say, $25 a year. What are they getting for that? And also, how are you convincing them to just do it at all? Or like, what's the whole thought there? Because I think just for context, as I'm sure most people know, this is generally deemed a difficult thing to do, is to get people to pay monthly or whatever, pay for, call it, local media. That is traditionally seen as relatively hard. So it seems like you maybe have cracked that in some way. So what are you doing that's different?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we did was that we started putting some of the content that was like the photo galleries. We would just put it behind the paywall too. So originally it's like the growth hack to get the subscribers. And then we did the, hey, you got to subscribe with your email in order to see the photos. Well, then we transitioned it. And okay, some of these are going to be on the paid tier.
Okay.
Now what we did that was kind of interesting was that we um, opened it to where if we had a sponsor for an event, then we would make it to where you only had to give your email. If we didn't have a sponsor for the event, then we would put it on the paid. And so it kind of drove revenue both ways, because then we would get somebody would go, oh, like some team, one high school, their sports were free, and these other ones were not. And so then a business would go like, how much does it cost to sponsor? That way, then like that's the team I care about. Then I want, all of the fans of that team to be able to see this for free. And so then we would get sponsors out of it too.
Mate, that's real. So when you say sponsor an event, like you're not, these aren't your events. You're talking about just sponsoring like the baseball team.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So like the dad on the team who like got a business, like, yeah, I'll pay these
Correct.
guys to like make this, so I can be the good guy to everybody.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Was that like on a per event basis or like a per team, like for the year kind of thing?
So it's like sometimes there's events like like some of the car dealerships will do I'm trying to think. They'll have like a concert or something that they put on out there at their dealership lot. And those ones are obviously like they sponsored it. But then we would go to like let's say it's like a high school football team, and it's like one team. They would pay for like that season of that
season.
sport, and be like, okay, I'm going to go over football, and I'll cover this team, and we would have a package for that, and then then it's pretty easy to so then you drive revenue from the teams that didn't get the sponsor.
Mhm.
Then those, I mean, frankly, like the family members and or like the friends or whatever, they want to see the photos. And really like even like the kids, there's a photo of me catching a touchdown. I'm gonna do whatever. $25. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to get, or I want that photo.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man, this is so interesting what you're doing and how different this is. I mean, maybe even let's just step back and say, first of all, you're like covering local sports, right? Which you don't normally hear people talking about. It's funny. One of my partners who I do it for has been very interested in doing local sports. He's like, that is going to crush. Well, maybe let's just stick on local sports, because that alone seems like an area where I think in most places it's not really covered anymore, right? Because it was probably covered by the old paper that used to exist that doesn't exist anymore. So would you say local sports is a big driver for you?
Not really. I don't think it's
Really?
I wouldn't say it's a huge driver, because I don't think that, so a lot of our stuff being automated, I think that now this is something that we're working on, because I think it can be a way bigger market. And the biggest thing about it is that for the local advertising dollar, local sports, like if you think about it, it's positive. It's, there's no negativity about it at all. It's there's goodwill. It's a goodwill gesture to get your brand around that.
100%.
And so I think from the advertising channel, then it's a no-brainer. As far as how much does it drive traffic-wise and like new signups, not a ton. I mean, it's not like dramatic. It is an aggregate on an individual basis, not.
Well, how are you actually? I think maybe this is the interesting thing. How are you covering it in the sense? So number one, you have a lot of things automated. We haven't gotten into the weeds here, but I think people are getting that you're automating so much of this, which is already very interesting. But I know in the town that we wanted to do it, we could not find any information where anybody was publishing like scores or anything. So I don't even know how we would cover it without like literally sending somebody there, which is kind of a different situation.
Which is what we did. We sent and we said, all right, we're going to send a photographer. And then what we would do that's unique is like, I think a lot of the people, if you think about all the people that are invested in that team, okay, well, if it's a home game, I mean, if you care, you're probably there, right?
Okay.
And so that's why we were like, well, posting the score isn't all that interesting.
Okay.
And then there's the streaming providers that are out there, and so if you're not there, you're probably watching it. And so we were trying to figure out what would be the unique aspect of it, and it's like, oh, the photo galleries would be unique. That would actually work, and it would make it to where even for the next, I don't know, year or two, somebody can go back and look at, and they want to go back and find the photo of themselves or their kid or whatever. So that was kind of our aspect, but then, we already had the photographer there. They're going to see the score.
Yeah.
So we would get that relatively quickly too.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Um, yeah, I love that. I do think that that's going to be a, a big play. I mean, that's why just sports in general, it's not as automatable, right? Which I think could it adds to the value, right? And that's why say the nationally, like all these big media companies and the contracts and stuff. I know it's obviously a lot different, but it's because it's real, right? Seeing human beings on a field playing, especially if they're related to you or in your neighborhood, like I don't know, there's something there that feels like it's going to grow even more as AI, everything gets more fake.
Yeah, and there's more. I mean, and there are more. There's growing ways to automate. Like I mentioned that we automated public meetings on
Mm-hmm.
that are streamed, and so we can do the same thing for sports if it's streamed,
Okay.
because we can
Yep.
automate, and
Yep.
then we can automate the summary. We can get almost everything. There's some speed bumps in there.
Mm-hmm.
Spelling of names based on like pronunciation of how the name is pronounced. There's some of those things. There's the intricacies of the game that can throw things off. And so there, but it's getting closer to where you could
Yeah.
actually pull this off, and do it from like a fully automated method.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that's going to be super interesting over time how that goes. Why don't we talk a little bit about how you see this? Again, you don't call it a media. Do you have a term for it? Like if you don't like,
Yeah,
what do you call it? Community
community
intelligence.
intelligence.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what we call like so. I guess I can kind of go into that a little bit now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
like we originally started on Ghost, so we were
Yep.
not a beehive. We
Yep.
were on Ghost, and Ghost is like a more modern version of WordPress. We started on that. We still have a portion of it running on that because we haven't completely migrated over to our platform. So our platform is called Fractals Network, and we're like everything that's new functionality wise is all happening there.
Okay.
Um, Ghost has been fantastic, but there were just little things that I wanted to have complete control and flexibility. So we built this out, and then also we wanted to be able to replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
And So I built it out as my background is SaaS, and I'm like, all right, I guess we're going to do that now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're migrating everything. We're in the process of getting everybody over to the newer version of it, which started as like our events calendar um, platform, and then we just started building out everything from there to where it
Mm-hmm.
was more comprehensive.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, you have your own events platform. So yeah, why don't we talk about that one? So the events
Hmm.
platform, again, a lot of people talking about this. City Spark is kind of the legacy one. There's some people trying to disrupt it. I'm in communication with a few of them. You're one of them. You've built your own. And like what they do, I think what makes it super interesting is it can actually be a revenue driver, right? So people are actually paying to be on it. So why don't you tell us how that side works and the upside there for people to have that?
Yeah. So we do the typical scraping of events calendars that are out there, but then we also allow the community to be able to add their own events,
Yeah.
and then they can pay for those to be featured. So we have events. We include a list of the events in our newsletter, and the idea is like, okay, we're going to put a pretty comprehensive list in there. But if you want to be featured or you want to add an image, then you can pay for that. And then what we just rolled out was now you can also pay to create an incentive to the members to attend your event. So
Hmm.
and they're like earn a point by coming to the event or earn 10 points to the
Mm-hmm.
first 100 people that show up to the event. And so we can create that aspect of it too. And so then um, they pay for those. And then what we did that was kind of probably not traditional, and I kind of did it by accident, was that we don't, when somebody adds an event, or we've aggregated it already, like our scraping has pulled it in, then um, anybody can actually go and pay to boost the the event. And
Mm-hmm.
so that made it where now instead of just relying on the person who's adding the event, or if we've already scraped it and they don't need to add it, but then now anybody can go and like, oh yeah, I want my kids involved, or I care about this event. I'm gonna go ahead and pay whatever it is and like on the per day to get it in and make sure more people see it. And then now to be able to, you know, throw some money in to get the attendance up at an event. So we had like a farmers market that did this the other day. That was now they're paying and offering rewards to go to their farmers market.
Interesting. How much can you say how much that's generating for you, or how big of an opportunity is that?
It's not crazy yet, so it's about $10,000. I think last time I checked, that we've done off of that this year, but we only rolled it out in July.
Okay, so at least 20, and that's with it being new versus as it grows and gets more established and people get more familiar with it, the more valuable it'll be, more people will pay for it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The more that do it, that's always the cold start problem.
Yeah.
And so we're still kind of in that phase, but people are it's moving in the right direction, and I suspect in a couple years, then I've long kind of thought that would end up being one of our bigger channels.
Interesting. Okay. No, wanted to tell you real quick about 3 ways I can help you. So the first way is join our free Discord. So I opened a Discord. I want to be able to chat with listeners here. I get so many ideas from you guys. I want to have some of you on the show. I want to help as much as I can, reasonably, of course. It's going to be free. So just jump in there, ask me questions. I'll host some office hours occasionally, and let's see how we can help each other. Number 2 is our software that we built called Local Newsletter OS. It's what we're using to help us streamline all of our processes. Creating a local newsletter is complex on the internet, going to so many different sites, using AI tools. We basically streamline this all into one so that it's much simpler for to use and for your team. It's really a great software that we're going to build into something truly amazing over time. Right now, it just helps with your newsletter. Over time, it will also help with your website and directory and all kinds of things. So jump on there. Again, the resources for both of those are on localmediahq.com. Finally is helping you actually consistently build your newsletter. So we've got options for do it yourself, where we give you all the tools, training, software, all of it. We've got one where we kind of do it with you, which is, consulting plus doing your growth and meta ad side. And then of course we have it done for you where literally we will do everything. So all of this stuff you can get on localmediahq.com. So go over there, check it out, and back to the show. No, that's really cool. So here's another thing I want to go over, because again, very different how you view things versus what most of us are doing. So one of the common things a lot of people on this show, including me, have talked about is, we stay away from crime. We basically cover, new business, new restaurants, maybe some news that's like, valuable to know, and events, maybe a little bit more, but like most people are not covering crime. They're not. I know the other thing you do, which is interesting. You kind of introduced me to the idea of the obituary thing. I don't know, maybe like high level, talk about how you see this brand and what you're doing and how maybe that's different from what I know that a lot of us are doing as far as the like, oh no, we only want it to be positive kind of stuff. And then maybe any sort of in the weeds aspects of how you do it and how much people like it or don't like it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple ways to think about it. We did it from the very beginning because, like I had mentioned, like I founded one in 2011. And when I started this one, I was trying to go in and figure out all of the different connections that I had that I could kind of pipe that information in and automate it. And that, like, there were a bunch of those already set up. And so the contacts that I needed in order to pull that off, that was just really easy, low-lying fruit. Now, the negative is that, yes, some brands do not. Like, if you're going strictly advertising, then I think that it could be, you'll run into some hurdles because they don't necessarily want the brand to be associated with a bunch of, crime stories. They want to be associated with positive stuff. I don't know that it's necessarily hurt us that much just because we try to balance it out. And there's just not, in a smaller town, there's not that much crime, but it is it's important information. And it's by far the most engaged with content.
Okay.
Not, as far as just like, the reads, which is what we call them, that is just dramatically more for those types of stories.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
What we're doing with I guess what I would say also is like with what we're doing with like the Fractals Network now, as we're adding more communities, we want it to be really decentralized. And so we did it in Salina, but some of the other communities are not going to do it.
Not do it. Yeah.
I think that should be completely fine to figure out what, it's decentralized, and every one of the communities can operate in its own way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, even just on the thinking about the engagement side, which kind of just makes sense. It's like, I remember hearing years ago those websites that would like scrape mug shots, and everybody's like, ooh,
Yep.
who's mugshot? Which, again, I don't personally understand it. I don't care about that, but I do understand that that's something that does get a ton of engagement. People are, nosy and curious what kind of weird stuff is happening around them, right? So
Yep.
there's pros and cons, right? I also
Oh
think
yeah.
that the interesting thing, and maybe this comes with the obituary stuff too, of like when you say community platform or whatnot, it's like I think what you're doing is you're saying, well, this is the hub of everything happening in your community, even the negative stuff. We're
Yep.
the hub of it. And of course, it makes sense to have crime or those things in there because that's part of what's happening in the community, right? So I don't know. How do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think it's exactly right, and
Yeah.
I think that's the way I look at it in Salina, is that it's
Whatever's happening.
like it or not, when the sirens go flying by, a lot of people are, well, your first thought is like, I hope that's not my family member
Mm-hmm.
or a friend. But then you kind of want to know. I wonder what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. You can like it or not, but that's just, I think, human nature. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think if you're calling yourself, like a community hub, then you probably that's how I've looked at it. It's like, yeah, we have to have it, and we should try
Mm-hmm.
to be as effective
Yeah.
as we possibly be. And a lot of this automation that we have with AI, that's in every single prompt. Is that this needs to be like, there is no like comment as to if this is good or bad, or interpret or add any
Mm-hmm.
other subjectivity. That's not the exact prompt, but it's
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. What about the obituary thing?
Yeah.
How first of all, even how do you do it? And then, what kind of engagement is that? Or like, what do you think about the value of that?
I think that it's so I've looked at it as from two perspectives. So in the town in Salina, a lot of traditionally the newspapers had the obituaries. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what's dirty about that is like you had to pay.
Mm-hmm.
You had to like pay the newspaper to get your loved ones, like the story of their life and like an announcement about it published. And I always thought that was dirty. And so our idea was like, hey, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it for free. And we even printed in our print newspaper. We do it for free because I'm like, it's just like I look at it as like a sign of respect for community members that it's really gross that somebody wanted to charge them to do this. And so the way we do it is we automate it from like the funeral homes. The funeral homes all, there's 3 of them in town. And then after we did it, now we get a ton of them emailed to us.
You get them sent to you, yeah.
Because they found out it was free, and I'm
Yeah.
like, instead of going and paying the old newspaper to get it published, then they could just mail it to us and we put it in there. And yeah, it costs us money because, on the print side, then it takes up a lot of pages when some of these people have like really long stories. And so, but it's just been something that we felt like was just, that's how we look at it. It's like, it's a sign of respect for folks that are in the community. And then, it lets, a lot of people are, even though we have social media, a lot of, especially older folks, are not necessarily all that connected. And there's really no way for them to find out if, from high school passed away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that they attend the funeral.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you're actually posting what people are writing. It's not solely like just scraping. It's what people are writing, or is what's coming from the funeral homes what the person wrote?
Yeah, so like, just the traditional obituary that is provided, and usually, the funeral homes or the mortuaries will take care of getting that taken care of, which family member usually writes it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody wants it distributed. I mean, it's like they didn't write it for themselves; they wrote it for the community or family members, friends to be able to read it. And so we just look at it as like, hey, we're just adding to the distribution of it.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's super interesting. Again, I do think it's really interesting your entire model here of like covering everything, which kind of goes against what most of us are doing. So I think it's really interesting. All right, let's talk about what I think people are always most interested in, monetization, other than what we've already talked about. So let's say specifically on the the ad side. So you've talked a little bit about the people sponsoring the sections about the sports team or the photos, whatever. But higher level, I mean, you're making basically $500,000 a year in a small town, which is just crazy. How are you doing this? Like, as far as getting advertisers, what's the process? Any insights you can kind of share with people that they could take away from?
Yeah, we started it. So my co-founder takes care of the sort of like the outbound. He talks to the businesses in town. Had some relationships previously, and so he kind of got a lot of that ball rolling. And then we have a lot of self-serve. So we make it to where it's self-serve. They can buy the ads directly from the platform, um, and that works relatively well. And there's still like in a small town, doing some of those transactions online, especially when you start doing like annuals and stuff. Sometimes they're a little apprehensive about that, and so then we'll have to jump on and kind of go over agreements and some of that stuff. But yeah, the growing portion of that is all done online. Um, the other thing that we revenue wise, I mentioned that we're the paper of record, which is a legal statute.
So you're
And
getting paid by the city for that or something? Or
well, so the way that it kind of works is like in Kansas, and I think in most states, historically there was a paper of record, and when you had legal notices,
you had to have
uh,
something in there, right?
yeah, you'd have to pay to get it
Mhm.
put into the newspaper. And so now what's silly is that a lot of those it still has to be printed.
Mhm.
And so this was actually it was sort of a side quest was to see if we could become the paper of record. And because we figured out like the newspaper had been bought by I don't even remember one of those conglomerates,
Mhm.
and there's like no staff in the town anymore,
Mhm.
and so they print it. Most of like 90% of the stories are from they have nothing to do with the community itself, and so we were like, hey, I wonder if we could just start printing what we're doing, and then we can then we read the statute and it was okay, we would have to follow X, Y, and Z in order to pull this off, but we're printing it in the county and they aren't. And so this should trigger at least a review of this.
Mhm.
And it did immediately because they were paying um like I think at the time the county itself was paying because the biggest revenue driver of that it was like delinquent property taxes because it's like pretty long. There's a lot of people that don't pay like their property tax on time, and so that delinquent list is I don't know, like in our format of the paper, it's like 20 pages of names.
Okay.
And so they used to pay like the Saline County used to pay the newspaper about 200 about a quarter of $1 million a year. And so once it was triggered, then it opened it to bids, and we just lowballed it. Hey, let's just lowball it, and we'll see if we can get it. And sure enough, we got it. Now we don't make. I wish that we would have. I wish we had the same pricing structure that the old newspaper had. Um, but we got it moved over to us, and it's worked really well, and it drove revenue for us. As like another. There's cost involved in printing those extra pages, but
Mhm.
um, overall, it's been really good for us. And we also get to hang the mantle of like, hey, we're the
You're
paper of record.
exactly the brand value of that is, yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, again, I don't know how, unfortunately for most people in probably bigger cities, that may not be as viable, but if you're in a smaller town, it probably is.
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot of opportunity now. There's a lot of communities and municipalities that have moved to
Digital.
there's wiggle out. Well, and a lot of there's loopholes in it to where they can move it over to their own like county website, and that kind of came from a lot of these newspapers dying, frankly. Which I
Mhm.
think eventually there's legislation in some states that is trying to push that back to third parties.
Mhm.
Rightfully so, because yeah, if you have important information like how nobody's going to the city
Mhm.
website,
Mhm.
then
They're so
you
bad.
need
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like okay, we're gonna like there's notices that they have to put out to the public and about certain things like
Yeah, and they
budget
have
hearing.
incentive
Yeah,
not to. Yeah.
yeah. Do they
They don't want
want a
you
bunch
to.
of people to show up to the budget hearing? No,
Yeah.
they do not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like the budget hearings that were in Salina this year, we were putting up stories about all this stuff and the notices, and it was like the attendance at the last one was pretty dramatic. It was pretty crazy how many people were there.
It's because you
Um,
guys were putting the information out, getting
yeah,
people
because nobody
basically
even
riled up because nobody knows unless people like you or local media companies are putting it out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that there's, if some of those things happen, which I think they should. Now, I don't know, printing it, that isn't necessarily very smart. But I think that there should be something to have it distributed by
Mhm.
third parties. And frankly, local newsletters would be in a good position to do that because they're
Mhm.
distributing the information and they can distribute it directly. They don't have to rely on Facebook
Mhm.
because that's the alternative, is websites and then distribution by Facebook, which is, I don't know.
Not reliable.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
reliable.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, no, this is really interesting. So on the, let's just say on the advertiser side though, are you, I mean, you're in a small town and, a relatively smaller state. Are the types of brands advertising with you, are these your traditional small business, guy with 2 employees, guy with 4 employees, or are you getting in front of bigger brands, who's advertising?
They're all bigger.
It's
They're all
big.
bigger.
Okay.
We don't have any like traditional small businesses. And
Really?
mostly because our prices, we didn't lowball anything.
Because your prices are relatively high. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And now they kind of we didn't start there necessarily.
Mhm.
But the beauty of a lot of the ad revenue comes off of, limited space. So we do it daily. We only throw one ad in. So we throw
Yeah.
one ad in the newsletter. And when we started off, it was like $100 to have the big ad at the top. And we just recently, like in 26, we're gonna go up to 400. So we've been like every year it goes up. And as the subscribers go up, it's just, if you want to be in front of everybody in the community, then we're like, yeah, that's the spot.
Mhm. Yeah.
Goes out every morning, 50% open rate. So that's the quickest way to reach a ton of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. So it's the bigger companies. Like, is there certain industries that you kind of had the most success with, or?
Yeah.
What?
It's the bigger advertisers that are in the community, like local community. So you've got your dealerships, you've got your medical providers, your banks, like real estate to an extent, insurance, the event venues. Those are a big one for us. And then we have offs. We have the like home construction. We've got like the service master, stuff like that. Some of the service businesses, there's a few of those. Although for us, we don't really have any like the mom and pop businesses.
What about any like governmental type of businesses? Again, like the city itself, the county, the power company. Do you get any of those, or have any thoughts on that?
Not in our big spot, but then we do have we have like some like a little job board in the and so they'll do a lot of that stuff.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I'd say that's just one ad, but there's other stuff that's in there, and then we have like the featured events and stuff like that. But we just kind of have like the one big, like where it's like very clearly an ad.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Have you thought about doing more than one? I mean, or other ways to monetize the newsletter?
Yeah, we've contemplated it. The idea was like we haven't gotten any pushback on the price. So
that means you need to go higher, right?
That means like we're just going to keep going higher.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we kind of tap out, like how high, when we start getting a little bit of churn on that, that's when I'll just open up. And then we'll just cap that price and go, that's the price for the time being. And then we'll add another spot.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
But I was like, I'm going to wait until I get a little bit of price sensitivity. And you never know you're going to get that until you do it. And so it's kind of like, try it. And then we go back to renew those contracts. And it's like, oh, okay. Like at some point we lost a little bit this last turn, but not enough to where we're like, we had a wait list to get in it.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, well, we're still not doing.
I mean,
yeah.
There's a reason I think the comparable is always like Disneyland, right? People complain, oh, the price is so high. The price is so high. It keeps going up. It's like, yeah, but their attendance isn't really going down. So it's like, they're just going to see how far they can take it. I mean, people are still buying it. So
Exactly.
So on these bigger brands, I know you said your partner does a lot of the sales. Would you say how much of it is inbound versus how much is him like kind of going after these?
Oh, now it's almost all
Yeah,
inbound.
yeah. So I was going to say, okay, now you guys are basically everybody in town knows you and is following you. For people, let's say when you were kind of more in the earlier stage, was he kind of going after these? Would you say more? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
The cold start, your
Hmm.
origin, he just went and talked to the biggest ones and like explained what we were doing, how it was different, and here's how it went. And I mean, we had the prices so low that it was kind of like, oh yeah, oh, sure, I'll
Yeah.
try that.
Yeah.
And then, we send them the analytics so they can see how many people see it every day.
Hmm.
And so then we go back and say, hey, sorry, we're sold out. We need to
Hmm.
raise the prices. And so it was like, if you had 3 days last month, when prices are going up, you want to go back to one? And it's like, no, they're not doing that. They're
Hmm.
not going to what being seen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. So again, it's like you gotta do the hard thing now. You got to get out there, whether in person, whether lots of calling, everything, right? Email, DM them, whatever you got to do. And then as you get people in the door, then again, that's the benefit of our model, at least on the newsletter only, is you do have limited space, right? So the ability to go to them and say, hey, I already pre-sold this, like that's just the indicator to them that no, this is a valuable thing. I need to be in there because everybody's trying to be in there.
Yes, and that's how we're doing it. And like, so the new markets that we're launching, that's what we're doing. We're saying like, okay, we're going to go reach out to them, and we're going to reach out to the big ones, because the other thing about going after the big ones is that it lends you credibility.
Hmm.
Because when another business sees that, like, oh, these guys spend a lot of
Hmm.
money and do a lot of marketing, they're spending their money here, so this must be a smart place to put my money. So we always go after the big ones. We usually try to make it a trivial transaction for them. And then we just overserve that and then go like, oh, hey, here's your analytics. Here's what this performed. And they don't get that from really anywhere. There's like, sure, there's like dashboard and you got to like, oh, you can go check it. And I'm like, no, it's automated, but it's an automated email
Hmm.
that goes to them and says, hey, here's how many people saw it. Here's how many engaged with it. And it just goes, 24 hours after it runs.
Yeah, we didn't even get into too much about how much you've automated and how you've done this. It's pretty crazy, pretty impressive. But maybe speaking to that, like, so tell me what's the vision here? I mean, you're already maxed out in Salina, but you've got Fractals. You're trying to bring this to other communities. What's the big vision here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that um, it's really just, hey, I think this is going to be really powerful. I think we've kind of proven it out, and we have a testing ground to try out stuff. And then, we want to expand this broadly, because I've kind of felt like it's necessary. Like I don't live in Salina. I live in another town called Wamego that's even smaller. It's 5,000 population. Long story. I just live here just because I picked it, and it was like a cool little town that I wanted to live in, and
Okay.
my wife agreed. And
Okay.
so, um, but one thing that kind of like bugged me is, there's just you can't find out anything. There's just nothing going
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
Um, you find out stuff after the fact, because I don't live on Facebook. I don't want to spend any time on it at all, frankly. And so, um, for me, I kind of felt like this is the way it should, and this is something that I would actually enjoy to experience. I haven't really done it in Wamego, mostly because it's just really
It's
small, and
probably
I'm
just
like,
too small.
yeah, and I'm like, I have other fish to fry
Mhm.
first, but eventually, then I do want to circle back around to it and do it the right way. Now, I think in a town this small, I don't know that I would ever make my money back. I'm gonna have to
Mhm.
automate every little last thing in order to make it work. And
Mhm.
there's enough little like work that I have to do still that I haven't figured out yet. But eventually, I'm gonna circle back to being able to do
Mhm.
like a really really small town, because I think it's just value. And I think it is a way to. Um, I think the metros certainly, you know capture the majority of the attention, and um, and a lot of the you know prospering is going on there, and less in smaller communities. And so I think it's a way to kind of restructure that, especially like with the rewards and the incentives, um, to be able to kind of drive smaller communities to um, prosper a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess maybe, yeah, let's hit on that a little bit. How do you think about what you've built? and how that maybe does or doesn't apply in, different size communities. I mean, is this something
Yeah.
you've thought much about?
Yeah, actually a ton.
Okay.
Probably too much. So I don't think we'll ever be starting one in a really large like metro.
Hmm.
Because I would rather, well, I think that there's enough stuff out there that kind of covers that it's not necessary.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's like a meeting that just has too many people. Um, and instead, I feel like a more effective approach is to chop that up. So we've been in communication with a couple folks that wanted to franchise one of our like franchise a fractals in their own community, and like some of them were like, there's like one he wanted to do it in London, and I was kind of like, I don't think I wouldn't just tackle that one. I don't think that's the
No.
right way to do it. You could chop that up though,
Yeah.
and then you have that's like what is it, 10, 20, 30, I don't know. You could chop it up that way. And and then each one of them is like its own, I feel like it's just the meeting metaphor is better. Like it'll be a lot better and more effective if you do it with a smaller group and
Hmm.
a small location. So that's how I have viewed it. Now, could you then aggregate it? That would be the way that I would probably do it, is then just aggregate. Then you could put one that's like over the top and just aggregate from all the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And then you get like, then if you, so for those that wanted, the broader information, then they could just, subscribe to
Yeah.
the one that's aggregating between all of those.
I mean, I even just think about where I am, right? I don't know how many people know where I'm at in the like Leander area. So like, Leander is a town of 80,000, Cedar Park town of 80,000, and then Liberty Hill right above it is a town of 10. So it's like, I combine them to have a bigger audience, right? And because I go to all three cities frequently, so it's like everybody likes them. But there's also the huge downside of sometimes people don't want to see as much about the other communities. And the worst part is the name, right? So it's called Leander, but Cedar Park's a huge city with getting crazy attention right now. And it's not in the name. And a lot of people would just write it off because the name's not there. But I guess to your point, Salina is 60,000 or maybe even more with the outskirts. Say Cedar Park is 80,000. It probably could have justified, like Cedar Park alone would justify one of these. Leander gets its own, maybe even Liberty Hill, and that's a bit small, but maybe it gets its own. And then to your point, you have some sort of aggregator for people like me who are going to be like, I go to all three of these all the time. I would want to know what's going on in all of them. And then you just kind of have an aggregation on top, or you can subscribe to all of them.
Yep. And that's kind of how, so inside of like the dashboard that we have for fractals, like if you're inside of one site, then you can see the other communities. And so then you can just toggle.
So that you could just toggle. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah. So then you can just toggle on if you care about like the next community over, you'd be like, oh, I want that one too. And then you just toggle it on. And then, from us from like the franchise model, then it's like, oh, hey, now you can get subscribers from, the next. Now for Salina, it's like, there's nothing really large enough that's close.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really all that well. But yeah, down like where you're at. Yeah.
It would totally. I mean, we get that now with, we have our other one in Round Rock, which I still go to over there too, because, all these, in these big cities, all the suburbs, you don't know which one you're in. It's just a random line, right? They all merge together.
Yeah.
But, with their two newsletters, we refer back and forth, right? Oh, if you sign up for Leander Scoop, would you also like to sign up for Round Rock Scoop? And a lot of people say yes to that, right? And vice versa. And they say it even more if it was, if they were smaller, right? Cedar Park to Leander, you'd probably get 80%, 90% of people would probably say yes if they saw that, right? So, yeah, no, man, I know you and I talk about this off the show, and we're going to have to talk more about it. I feel like every time I talk to you, it gets more exciting. But awesome, Matt. Well, hey, anything I didn't ask you or anything you want to leave anybody with or tell them where to go?
No, I think, fractalsnetwork.com is sort of like that's the overarching platform itself. And then, you can link out kind of from there and to kind of see what we're doing. If you go to Salina 311, you'll see like the legacy version of it. And then eventually we'll move that over here in January. But then, the Fractals platform's at events.salina311.com. And then we have a new community that came on with us recently, and that's growing kind of crazy. And that one's communitydashboard.org. And it's in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Okay. But you don't have Wilmington in the domain?
Nope. So we leave it to the franchise
Hmm.
like owner, like what they want to do. They can use any domain they want, and he got communitydashboard.org, which I
Okay.
thought was a pretty quick one because I like that name.
Yeah.
We contemplated calling ourselves a community dashboard
Mm-hmm.
as like that instead of community intelligence platform.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so he used that name, and I thought it was pretty smart, and a good solid domain.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, everybody should check out Matt, what he's doing. I'm telling you, this is you obviously just heard it, but it is so interesting what he's doing, and he keeps adding more and more to it. So, thank you so much for sharing all this, Matt. It's been great.
Hey, thank you. This is a blast.
Of course. All right. Thanks. See ya.
Yep. Bye bye.